Axios, the JavaScript library installed on virtually every web project you've ever touched, just got hijacked in what might be the most sophisticated supply chain attack in history. A remote access Trojan deployed in 1.1 seconds. Then the malware erased itself. Meanwhile, Anthropic accidentally leaked the entire architecture of Claude Code, their $2.5 billion product. And what's inside tells us more about the future of AI agents than any roadmap ever could. From the team at the Synthetic Daily, it's Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. Good to have you with us.
We went through about 84 posts, articles, and threads across LinkedIn, Substack, and YouTube to find what actually matters today. Let's get into it.
Let's start with the story that should have every developer checking their terminal right now. Axios, the HTTP library with over 100 million weekly downloads, the thing that basically lets code talk to the internet, was hijacked. Network Chuck broke this down in real time, and the details are genuinely chilling.
Here's what happened. An attacker compromised the account of a lead maintainer named Jason Seaman, grabbed a long-lived NPM access token, and got the keys to the kingdom. But the clever part? They never actually added malicious code to Axios itself. Instead, they slipped a single dependency into the package.json file, something called plaincrypto.js. An average code reviewer would glance at it and move on. That dependency carried a post-install script that, upon running npm install, triggered a dropper. The dropper detected your operating system, contacted a command and control server, downloaded a remote access Trojan tailored to your machine, and then, and this is the part that makes security researchers lose sleep, it deleted itself. Setup.js gone. The malicious package.json, replaced with a clean pre-staged version. Total elapsed time, 1.1 seconds. No trace left behind.
Two release branches were poisoned within 39 minutes of each other. Any project using a caret range for those versions would pull the compromised code on the next NPM install, something that happens automatically in CI/CD pipelines constantly. Chuck pointed out the uncomfortable truth. The average NPM project trusts between 200 and 2,100 strangers with code execution. You weren't doing anything wrong. You were just installing software for people you trust. And those people trusted Axios. That's the nature of a supply chain attack. It's not the coffee that's poisoned, it's the water supply. If you're affected, rotate every API key, every credential, every token. Treat your machine as compromised. Now, from one kind of leak to another, except this one is arguably more consequential for anyone building AI agents. Anthropic accidentally exposed the full internal architecture of Claude Code, their flagship coding agent with a reported $2.5 billion run rate. And Nate B. Jones did something nobody else seemed to be doing. Instead of breathlessly cataloging upcoming feature flags, he reverse-engineered the boring, essential plumbing that makes the whole thing work.
Yeah, and what he found was 12 distinct architectural primitives organized into 3 tiers. The stuff that separates a weekend demo from production-grade software. Start with the tool registry. Claude Code maintains 2 parallel registries, 207 entries for user-facing commands, 184 for model-facing capabilities, each carrying a name, source hint, and responsibility description. The implementations load on demand. That separation is structural, not inferred by the model. Then there's the permission system. Claude segments capabilities into 3 trust tiers: built-in, plugin, and user-defined skills. And the shell execution tool alone, the bash tool, has an 18-module security architecture. 18 modules. Pre-approved command patterns, destructive command warnings, Git-specific safety checks, sandbox termination protocols. Anthropic isn't being paranoid. That's what separates a system serving millions from one that runs in a notebook.
Jones also surfaced something the community hadn't seen before. Claude Code defines 6 built-in agent types: explore, plan, verify, guide, general purpose, and status line setup, each with its own prompt, allowed tools, and behavioral constraints. An explore agent can't edit files. A plan agent doesn't execute code. The takeaway isn't spawn agents like minions. It's constrain roles sharply and manage them as observable types. Jones put it bluntly: building agents is 80% non-glamorous plumbing and 20% AI. Session persistence that survives crashes, workflow state that's separate from conversation state, token budgeting with hard stops, structured streaming events, system event logging. This is the architecture of scale. And now, thanks to an apparent build configuration error, it's everyone's textbook. So here's the thing that makes the Claude Code leak more than just a technical curiosity. It was Anthropic's second significant leak in the same week. Days earlier, Fortune reported that draft blog materials describing a new model called Claude Mythos were found on a publicly accessible server. Different systems, different mechanisms, same company, same week.
I was reading through this and Nate Jones asked the question every team building with AI-assisted development should be asking. Is your development velocity outrunning your operational discipline? The conjecture circulating on X, and Jones was careful to flag it as conjecture, is that someone inside Anthropic got switched to adaptive reasoning mode accidentally. Their Claude Code session fell back to Sonnet, and the model committed the source map file as part of a routine build step. The AI may have leaked the AI's own source code. Whether or not that's exactly what happened, the fact that it's a plausible chain of events tells you everything about where we are in 2026.
Anthropic has said its engineers write roughly 90% of their code with AI and ship multiple releases per engineer per day, potentially up to 5. At that velocity, the surface area for configuration drift is enormous. And this connects directly to the Axios story, right? Both are fundamentally about the tension between shipping speed and operational rigor. Ironically, Jones pointed out that the boring primitives inside the Claude Code leak, build pipeline configuration, publish step validation, are exactly the kind of infrastructure Anthropic will need to lean on to prevent this from happening again. The velocity isn't going away. The discipline has to catch up.
Meanwhile, Network Chuck reported that Anthropic is also cutting off support for third-party harnesses like OpenClaw, which is pushing some of their most passionate users toward OpenAI. Chuck didn't mince words. You may have made me an OpenAI person now. When you're simultaneously leaking your crown jewels and alienating your power users, that's a complicated week.
Step back from individual products for a moment, because there's a much larger story assembling itself underneath. Nate Jones laid out a 6-layer infrastructure stack for AI agents that has billions in capital behind it, and almost nobody outside the category can figure out what's real and what's hype.
Layer 1 is compute and sandboxing, the most mature piece. E2B uses Firecracker micro VMs, same tech as AWS Lambda, giving each agent a session with its own kernel. Daytona bet on Docker containers with a 90-millisecond cold start. The philosophical split here matters. Are your agents ephemeral or persistent? That's not a style preference. It's an architectural bet on how long agent sessions will run. Layer 2 is identity and communication, and it's genuinely weird right now. Agent Mail raised $6 million from General Catalyst on the thesis that email is the identity layer for agents. Every SaaS needs one at signup, every verification flow sends codes to it. But Jones asked the hard question, is email a shim? It works because it's everywhere, not because it's right for agents. Layer 3 memory is where MEM0 has emerged as a leader, 41,000 GitHub stars, selected by AWS as the exclusive memory provider for its agent SDK. But every frontier lab is building memory into its models. If memory becomes a model-level feature, standalone memory companies could get absorbed overnight.
Then there's Layer 5, which just arrived last week. Stripe projects, the first credible trust layer for agent-to-service transactions. An agent can now provision its own database, upgrade a hosting tier, and have Stripe tokenize its payment credentials, all in about 350 milliseconds. The big gap? Layer 6, orchestration. Gartner reported a 1,400% surge in multi-agent system inquiries, but the tooling is still at the framework level, not the infrastructure level. Whoever solves orchestration at infrastructure grade, Jones argues, will own the most valuable position in the entire agent stack. It's the Kubernetes moment for AI. So let's start with the big story. All this infrastructure talk matters because the products sitting on top of it are struggling with a credibility problem. Jones reviewed the current landscape of outcome-focused agents, the ones that claim to do real work, not just chat, and applied 3 questions. Does it have persistent memory? Does it produce editable artifacts? Does the context compound over time? Even Claude's Cowork, the agent that triggered a $285 billion SaaS stock sell-off, only scores about 1.25 out of 3. If you close your laptop, Cowork goes to sleep. That's not remotely acceptable for production software.
Lindy, the best-known independent agent in the space, has a Trustpilot score of 2.4 out of 5. Users report credits burning on unproductive runs with no easy way to debug. Sauna, a pivot from the old wordware IDE, has the strongest conceptual play around memory as substrate rather than toggle, but it's still mostly demo videos. Google Opal is free, which is wonderful, but its memory feature looks like a spreadsheet, not durable enough for long-running agent work.
The uncomfortable pattern Jones identified is one that Tom from ICOR echoed from a completely different angle. Agents produce at 100x, but organizations review at 3x. Tom showed how he was burning through his $200 a month Claude Max plan in 3 days because every agent in his multi-agent team was running Opus at high effort with a 1,000,000 token context window. His fix was almost comically simple. Set the orchestrator to Sonnet on medium effort. Reserve Opus for the agents doing heavy coding work. But the deeper lesson is that we're generating vastly more output than our review processes can absorb. If you scale Ad Creative from 20 to 2,000 pieces, congratulations. You just created an enormous human bottleneck on the review side. The org redesign isn't optional. It's a whole game. Let me bring up something related. We'll close with something that flew under the radar, but might matter more than any of these enterprise stories in the long run. Network Chuck demonstrated Google's Gemma 4 running locally on an iPhone. No internet, no server, no cloud. He put the phone in airplane mode, launched the AI Edge Gallery app, and asked it questions. The responses were, in his words, crazy fast. He pointed the camera at a Japanese pill bottle, and it translated the text. He recorded audio, and it transcribed. He told it to turn on his flashlight, and it did.
I want to add something to that. This is Edge AI computing arriving for Real. The effective 2 billion and 4 billion parameter models are small enough to run on phone hardware, and they're not useless. They can translate foreign languages offline, transcribe speech, interact with device functions. Chuck was genuinely excited, and frankly, he should be. This is the moment local AI stops being a hobbyist curiosity and starts being a practical tool for anyone who travels, works in areas with poor connectivity, or simply doesn't want their data leaving their device.
Daniel Jindu has been making the same philosophical argument about AI coding tools. His car analogy is sharp. Cloud-based tools like Claude Code are rental cars. The company holds the keys, sets the rules, and can shut you off while you're driving. OpenCode, the open-source alternative with over 120,000 users, is the car you own. You still need gas, meaning you still need a model provider, but you choose the gas station. And if you really want privacy, you run a local model through Llama. That's having a gas tank in your garage. Between Edge AI on phones and open-source coding tools that separate the harness from the engine, we're watching the early infrastructure of a genuinely decentralized AI ecosystem take shape. It's not the flashiest story today, but give it 18 months. All right, let's zoom out and talk about the bigger picture. What are the main themes running through everything we cover today? The first big theme is supply chain trust is structural, not optional. Both the Axios hijack and the Claude Code leak reveal that the weakest link in modern software isn't the code you write. It's the transitive trust graph of everything your code depends on, including the humans who maintain it.
Next, shipping velocity demands new operational primitives. When AI writes 90% of the code and engineers ship 5 releases a day, traditional security and review gates become the binding constraint, not the development itself.
Next, the agent infrastructure stack is the new cloud. Compute, identity, memory, integration, billing, and orchestration are crystallizing into a 6-layer stack where whoever solves the coordination layer will define the next era of enterprise software.
Next, output without review infrastructure is a liability. The mismatch between AI generation speed and human evaluation capacity is emerging as the central organizational bottleneck, making org redesign as important as model selection.
And the last one, decentralization, is gaining real footholds. Local models on phones and open-source tool harnesses that decouple from any single provider are quietly building the exit ramps from platform dependency that developers and users are beginning to demand.
So if you're going to take away a few things from today's episode, here's what I'd remember.
Number 1. If your NPM project uses Axios versions 1.14.1 or 0.30.4, stop what you're doing and check your system. A remote access Trojan could have installed and erased itself in just over a second.
Number 2. The most valuable lesson from the Claude Code leak isn't what Anthropic is shipping next. It's that production-grade AI agents are 80% boring infrastructure like crash recovery, permission auditing, and token budgeting.
Number 3. Agents that generate at 100x are worthless if your organization can only review at 3x. The bottleneck has moved from production to evaluation, and your org chart needs to reflect that.
And finally, the 6-layer agent infrastructure stack, compute, identity, memory, tools, billing, orchestration, is where the next defining companies will be built, and orchestration is the wide-open opportunity.
That's the daily brief for today. All the sources and links are on the website if you want to dig deeper.
Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow.